house. Today I'm working on a project where I am making some pants that I can wear through the spring and summer months. I wanted something that will keep me nice and cool and comfortable. I'm filming this at the end of March and we are already getting 80 plus degree highs. So it's already warm. We're having an early spring and it's just going to get hotter and hotter and hotter. So I want something that's going to keep me nice and cool when I go for my walks, because I walk just about every day. So let's take a look at the fabrics. Here I have 3 different colors of fabric. They're all the same blend of fabric. Now these are a 50-50 blend. They're a half cotton and half linen. I would love to have had 100% linen, but if you've been sewing and you want natural fibers, they are a little bit more expensive. And so I thought this was a good fit for me, being as I need at least 3 pairs. So I bought 2 yards of each. I got these at Hobby Lobby and I just loved the colors. So I have already pre-washed them. I am going to iron them. That's the next thing I'm going to do before I start getting ready to cut them out. I'm going to start with this like natural khaki. And I don't know if you could see, I also had the blue too, which is really pretty. Okay, but I am going to start making the khaki first. Okay, so let's take a look at the pattern. This is a pattern I got at Joann's a few months ago, and I like that it has different options here. I love it when patterns have this. So you have a shorts option, you of course have the long pants here, and then you have a couple of different skirts that you can make as well. I'm going to be making these legs right here, only mine are going to be cropped and be more like capri pants. But for the khaki pair, I'm going to make them just like the pattern says, except that they'll be shorter than this. They won't be full length pants. Now, I was looking at the measurements on the back and I quickly realized that modern clothing measurements sizes don't really match these sizes. And so after taking my measurements, I realized that I was going to have to alter this pattern a little bit because I think it's really going to be too small for me. And so I might have to make my own pattern. Now this was not going to be a video about, altering patterns, but yet that's kind of where we are. I had not planned for that, but I think that's probably what I'm going to have to do just to make sure that it fits me nicely. But that is the great thing about making clothes for yourself, is that you can tailor it to yourself. You can make it the way that you need it made. Okay, so I'm going to open this up and find the pieces that I need, and then I'm probably going to iron them. I am not terribly new to making clothes. I've made a lot of clothes with patterns in the past. My mom made a lot of clothes. She even worked at a sewing factory in Dallas when I was a baby. And she made my sister-in-law's wedding dress. So my mom was a great sewist, and I'm not a stranger to this. I watched her make many things. I made my own things when I was in high school, and also even after that I made my daughter quite a few clothes. So I don't do terribly intricate patterns where you have I don't do pleats and darts and things like that. But I am willing to learn those things, especially now that I want to get into making more of my own clothing. I proceeded to cut out my fabric altering the pattern pieces as I went. For most of them, I followed the pattern lines and just extended them out a little. The inseam was the hardest. Using tailor's chalk, I drew some dots about where I thought the inseam should be, and then I connected them, drawing a line for easier cutting. To get the length of the pants, I measured my leg from my waist down to my mid-calf and folded the pattern to that length. But I am cutting extra fabric here because I forgot to account for a hem allowance. Once all the cutting was complete, I began by pinning and sewing the inside leg seams. I finished off my seams by felling them for a nice smooth look. My sewing lines are a little wobbly here and there, but I got better at this as I proceeded through this process. Next, I pinned the inseam, but... Okay, I knew something was not right with that. And so I've turned it around. Luckily, I did not stitch it down. It felt wrong to me, and it was wrong. And so I've taken my pins out, and I fixed it. Now I'm going to pin it down again and sew it together. It's always a good idea to check your stuff before you stitch it down, because yeah, that would have been really bad. So pin it down again for the second time. Now my notches line up better, and the top lines up better. Everything lines up better. So if something feels wrong, if you have an intuition, you might be right. It's been a long time since I've made clothes. So this will probably not be without mistakes. But I'm going to try to avoid the mistakes if possible. Now that the pants are in the correct place and properly put together, I sewed up the inseam and the outer seams. Now I wanted to make sure that the pants fit before continuing forward. And luckily they did. They fit just right. I was kind of surprised by that. Next, I started to work on the casing that will hold the elastic and the drawstring. I start with the buttonholes. The pattern calls for remnants of interfacing, which I didn't have, so I just used some extra pieces of fabric. I basted them on before making the buttonholes by hand. After I finished the buttonholes, I finished off one edge of the casing and then pinned it in place. Then it's back to the sewing machine. Now I can work on the drawstring. The pattern says to sew it together and then to turn it out. I don't like making little tiny tubes and things like this in that way. So I fold the edges in toward the middle, and then after ironing them, I fold it in half and then stitch it down. Look who's joining me today. She is not happy that her chair is filled with my mending. Shame on me, bad cat mom. Next, I put in the elastic and the drawstring, and lastly, I hemmed up the bottom of the legs. Okay, I'm all finished with them. The only thing that I don't love is this right here. This casing's very wide. The elastics only comes up to maybe here, and it's moving around a lot, and I'm afraid it has the potential of getting twisted inside this casing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to push everything down to the bottom, and I'm going to stitch maybe 1/8 of an inch in right here across this top, and maybe that will help keep that elastic in place without, tacking it to the fabric, because I don't want to do that. And I think if I do this on the other pants, I will do it before I put in this drawstring. That way I don't have as much to kind of maneuver in here. But I can feel where the elastic is. I can see it's right there. So I'm just going to stitch right across there. Well, here they are. They're all finished. Now, I couldn't wait to go and try these out. And, I mean, are they the most flattering pants you could wear? No, they're not. But are they functional, and do they do the task that I created them to do? 100% yes. Because of the wide legs, I could feel the air coming up through them, and this breathable fabric just kept me so cool and comfortable on this walk. And this particular night when we went walking, it was a bit humid and kind of muggy outside, and so it was just perfect. So I think these are going to be really great for the upcoming summer season. And so now I'm going to move on to the blue pair. Now I like the way these fit, except for they're a little bit too much fabric in the front. So like the front inseam, I felt like it was a little bit too long, because I would pull my knee up and I would feel some like tightness across my leg. And at first I thought that maybe it was that the inseam was too small. But then what I realized is that if I pulled that fabric up in the front before I sat down or something like that, I didn't have that, it wasn't really tight, but I didn't have that pull there. And so what I'm going to do with the blue ones is that I'm going to shorten that inseam a little bit. I'm not going to do a ton, but I am going to shorten it and take some of that extra fabric out and see if that helps them to fit me and my body a little bit better. I'm also going to be adding some pockets on this blue pair, and I'm going to do something a little bit different with the bottom of the leg. So let's get started on that now. Okay, this is a piece of fabric that I'm going to use for pockets. Serendipitously, it's the piece of fabric that came right out of this section when I cut out my two pieces here. So I'm just going to shape this up and try to make a pocket. It is going to have a seam allowance all the way around, so it's going to look kind of big right now anyway, but it's kind of oblong shaped here, and so I want to kind of trim it up, make it a little more symmetrical, and go from there. So I'm just going to fold it in half. I'm going to do one for now and kind of get a midpoint. So I'm just going to make that my midpoint. I'm just going to trim around here. And then I'm going to trim this a little bit. Actually, I'm going to turn it over, because if you can see here, it's uneven right there. So I'm just going to follow that, and then we'll see what it looks like. Okay, that looks pretty good, I think. It's still a little bit big, I think, but I mean, all this is gonna be folded in. Probably a good 1/2 inch, because I'm gonna have to clip the curves. So let's just take a look at the sides. If we fold in a seam allowance here, I'm gonna finger press it. And then I'm going to finger press in this side, roughly about a 1/2 inch, maybe a little more than that. I'm just eyeballing it. So let's kind of see, like, how big does that look? So I think that looks better. So these pockets, I don't think I explained that. They're not going on the back of the pants. They're going to go on the side of my thigh, kind of like a cargo pocket would be. Only I'm not going to have flaps or anything. I'm just going to fold this down like that, have a stitch line across here, and that's going to be it. I might do some decorative stitching, but I haven't quite decided yet. But I think for this type of pocket, I think it's going to be okay. So I think I'm going to leave it like this. I would rather it be too big than too small. And those pant legs are really wide, so I think it'll just kind of fit right in with what I already have. So I'm just going to use this one as my pattern. Okay, I think that's gonna work. So now I'm going to kind of clip these curves. I think I'm going to do that before I fold them in and press them down. I think it might be a little bit easier. I'm not going to go up very high here. Just enough that I can fold it over for a seam allowance. Okay, so now I'm going to go press these down and then we'll pin them to the pants. Okay, I'm back from after ironing them, and I'm so glad I clipped these curves before I ironed it, because that helped it to lay down. And at the top here, what I've done is I gave myself a seam allowance and I folded it over again because I wanted this part to be really strong, because that's where your hand's going to be coming in and out of the pocket. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch a line all the way around here. And then I'm going to stitch right across here, because you don't want this coming up when you're, taking your hand out of your pocket. The only thing that I think I probably should have done first before I even did this is maybe cut this with pinking shears or do a zigzag stitch or an overlock stitch or something, because even though this is going to be inside your pocket, it might still fray and you might have fuzzy threads and stuff in your pocket. I don't know. But this is my first time making pockets, so I guess we'll just kind of see what happens, and if it's really annoying, then I'll know next time to do that. So I'm going to get to stitching and get these on my pants. Before I sew on the pockets, I want to do some decorative stitching. I find a blue thread and pencil in a grid of boxes for some cross stitches. What a wonderful way to spend a Saturday morning. After I finished the pocket, I measured from my waist to where my hand rests against my side to get an idea of where I wanted to place the pocket on these pants. I pin it in place, and then I continue on with my decorative stitching. Okay, now I want to make some straps for the end of my pants so that I can gather them up on the sides if I want to, and I'm going to have a little button there for them. And I'm not sure if I really want this to be functional, but I think it will be. I'm okay with it just being decorative though. But I might just make it functional so I can have them flat across, or I can button them up on the sides and have a little, decorative feature. So these are some vintage buttons that I found in my grandmother's button box that I inherited. And I think they're really cute. They have that kind of nautical feel to them. If I can get this old thread off of them. I'm trying to get that off. Distracted, sorry. I am going to wash them because they do feel like they're a little bit dirty, but I'm going to use these as my buttons on my pants. They're a little bit, you know, yellowed, but that's okay. I don't really care. I think they're really cute on these pants. So I'm going to use the size of this button to gauge how wide I want my strap to be. And I think that this width is pretty good. This is just some scraps fabric that I had when I cut out my pants. And so I'm going to trim them up so that this bottom area here is the same width as this up here. And I think that will work. Because when I get a seam, when I put in a seam allowance, I'll probably just do a rolled hem like that and stitch it down. And then I'll have to do a rolled hem kind of on that side and stitch it down. Now let's see. I think that's about right for a button. I think it's about the right size. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Okay, now I have pressed my little straps here. So all I did was fold in all these edges and then I folded it over itself like that. And I'm going to stitch down this edge and down this edge so it'll look symmetrical. And then I'm going to stitch across one of the top of these. And then my button will go like right here. And I'll make my buttonhole after I do that. This end I won't worry about because it's going to tuck underneath the pants and it's going to be stitched in like that. So this will be stitched to the underseam hem edge of the pants, and then this will come up and then I can button it like right here. Azriel, can I have my pants? Can I have my pants? Are you enjoying laying on them? Yeah, I gotta put the drawstring in. Can I have my pants? No, I can't. Please. How about a treat? You want treats? Yeah, I'll give you a treat if you get off my pants. Bribery always works with cats. Right. Now, pair number 2 is complete. I like how these look. I think they're really cute. After taking out about a ½ inch from the front pattern piece, these fit much better. This was a beautiful evening for a walk, and just look at these wildflowers. Our state flower is so beautiful. I went on to make the green pair. The only thing I changed was that I used ribbon for the drawstring. And I added a small casing at the bottom of the leg so I could put a ribbon through there and tie it up as well. I also put pockets on the back this time and made them a little bit smaller. I really love all 3 pairs of these pants, and I'm looking forward to wearing them often. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!